Mahabodhi Prabhu for giving us the opportunity to start. Originally, Nityadita Prabhu, of course, knew he was going to be here for the festival, so he asked him to speak, and after hearing I was going to be here, of course, he wanted me to speak, being here very early on with Kaladri. Actually, I remember it was the end of April 1971 when myself and my friend at the time, his name was Ken Wolf, I was Vinny, naturally, and we went to Pittsburgh Temple that time. Remember that place had the big temple room hall, and Jagannath deities were there. So we were stationed there for a few weeks, I guess while Bahulaban Farm the purchase was being finished. So then it wasn't long now, then we were all in Bahulaban, and myself, Yadavananda, Ken Wolf became Yadavananda, and Kaladri was there, Katila was there, Bhakta Bill, Harihara, Shamadagni was there, Mahananda. So that's where I started out in my Krishna conscious endeavors. And Kaladri and I think, it was back then that I met Kaladri Prabhu, and I think we got along very, very well. We seemed to be kind of like the right and left arms of Kirtananda at that time.
Yeah,
I kind of felt that way. And it was very much like I wound up a year later with Prabhupada. I was a servant, and I was always around the secretary. So he was the secretary, definitely the secretarial side of Kirtananda's New Vrindavan development, I think. And I traveled with him wherever he went. He did a lot of touring, preaching programs. So I did that. And then we would come back. We went in the road show. That's where, you came on the road show?
I was, we started the road show, and then I went out and would book engagements.
You were booking, okay.
I was booking engagements ahead of that.
Mm-hmm.
We booked the Syria Mosque in Pittsburgh, where Prabhupada came. Mm-hmm. The road show was a presentation at colleges, so we would present to the university and try to get a payment to come in and do the first Transcendental Road Show. And during the theater, there would be a lecture. There was a play, and then within the play, a person would be confused about his life, and then Kirtananda Vishnujan Swami would give a lecture. But when we booked it in Syria Mosque, Prabhupada came to see it, and Prabhupada actually walked up on the stage in the middle of the play and gave the lecture to Syria Mosque. It was pretty ecstatic.
And then he left at intermission.
Yeah.
And that was my first day as a servant, was that day when we went from New Vrindavan, the Madhuban Farm. We left after breakfast and then drove to Pittsburgh Temple. So I drove off in the car that morning, that fateful morning. And Kaladri was here in New Vrindavan. But we got to, while Prabhupada was here, we crossed paths and did service together a few times. And one of the most, it was difficult, but one of the most amazing times was in 1974. And that was when Prabhupada went to Vrindavan to supposedly open up the Vrindavan temple, Krishna Balaram Mandir. But it was evident as soon as he got there that it was not even close to opening. So that became difficult in itself. And imagine it was early August, well, mid-August. So it's very, very hot. And very hot, and now it's very hot and very humid, which is worse than being just very hot. And then Prabhupada got very ill. And this went on for a month. First Prabhupada was probably 3 weeks. Huh?
Yeah.
And it was the first time 24-hour kirtan was done. Prabhupada said they can chant in the temple. So that was the first time we experienced 24-hour kirtan. But some of the services that we got to perform were very, very special at that time. And as I said, first Prabhupada got sick, and then I got malaria, then Kaladri got malaria. So we're all just, and would you like to tell a few things?
Well, when Shruta Kirti got malaria, in the back of the Krishna Balaram temple, again, as he said, it was unfinished, and it was very rough. There were huts along the side. You know, there was only a ditch in the back for going to the bathroom, and when he got sick, then I came in. I was staying with him at that time. Prabhupada had his room in the back of Krishna Balaram Temple. And then there was a little room on the side, and that's where he and I stayed together. Then when he got sick, where did they put you, by the way? I have no idea where they put you.
When I got sick, I was right in Prabhupada's quarters, right behind his sitting room. That was the servants' quarters.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was right there.
Right. So at night in Vrindavan, they would shut off the electricity. So what would happen at night is the fans would go off, and the heat from the day it was unbearable to be in there. So when Prabhupada was very sick, I was at that time I was sleeping on the floor right next to him, which he would have his servants do, and he would say in the middle of the night, Kaladri, and I would walk him to the bathroom if he had to go to the bathroom, and then if he wanted to massage his fingers to try and get some relief from what he was doing. And then when the fans would go off, he'd want to go out on the back. They had a small porch at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to take his his pillow and his things and walk him out and set it all up. And I'm hurrying and setting it up because it's cooler outside than inside when the fans aren't working. So I'm trying to do it all quickly because I had to walk Prabhupada to he was, unfirm. He was not, he was sickly. So I'm doing it really quickly in Prabhupada. And even he said, just do it nicely. You know how he just wanted everything.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, when Shruti, Kirti, and we were starting to get back together, then Prabhupada sent us to the Jamuna. Remember, he said, you two are like two Brahmin brothers. Go spend the day at the Jamuna. So we spent the day, we covered ourselves in Jamuna mud, and let it dry out.
You could do that
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
1975.
And maybe you can tell,